All right. Hi, my name is Ben Hoyle from ENC Hospitality. This is Nick Hodak. Hi, guys. We are going to do a taste of Alto Shaam here for you. And just to start off, we're going to do a little bit of an introduction about what Taste of Alto Shaam is and who Alto Shaam is. Taste of Alto Shaam is a company created back in the 70s. It's made by a man named Jerry Moss. Jerry Moss was a inventor of the holding cabinet, the Halo Heat, and basically how he did that was he was part of a company called Chicken Delight. He was a franchise owner, and basically what he did was he would try to transport these chickens all around. So the chickens would be transported in his little VW Bug, and the VW Bug would have a whole bunch of different ways of doing that. So whether he was trying to put in live fuel into a box or try to, maneuver that however he could, he just tried to transport this thing around in a very hot way. But every time he would get to a customer, it would be some sort of cold, whether it's, cold on the inside, cold on the outside. He just wanted to try to find a way to do that. And one day he was at a Packers game, and at the Packers game, the field around was all snow, but right there on the field it was just pure grass. And if you've ever been to a football game, you can see the numbers. You can't see the lines, but you can see all the numbers. And with that, he looked at his buddy and was like, hey, how is that possible? And a structural engineer told him that it was thermocabling. And so he realized that if I take thermocabling and wrap it around a metal box, maybe I can get the temperature correct. And that's how he created the holding cabinet. The holding cabinet is basically a steel box, and it has thermal cabling wrapped around it with a temperature gauge, and that thing can go from 85 degrees, roughly, to 200 degrees. And so what the positive about that is you can place anything in there, whether it's fried, baked, moist, or hard, and we have little flues on the outside that you can, little capsules you can open up and either let steam out or close them and keep steam in. And we can give you an example of that in a second when we go over to it. But basically what it does is it helps hold in the heat, and it radiates it in instead of having like a cow rod and a fan that's just consistently blowing it around and dries out a lot of your products. So the positive thing about this is when you have a radiant heat, it's pulsating it in instead of blowing it directly on it and dry product out. So then when he was talking to a couple of chains, one chain in the 70s came up to him and said, hey, this technology is amazing. It's holding all of our product. It's keeping it nice and moist, but we're wondering if there's any way you can bring the temperature up. And this small chain called Arby's was like, we also want to be able to cook in it. And so they were like, we want to be able to do our roast beef and everything else in it. Is there any way you can bring the temperature gauge up? So he talked to a couple of his first inventors, Al and Tom. That's where we got Alto and Shaam, or Alto is Al and Tom. And they said, yeah, let's do it. Let's bring the temperature gauge up. So we got our cook and hold as well. That can go up to 350 or 325. And it will rise and cook. And then at the end of the cook cycle, will hold. And Nick will go over that a little bit more with you. But yeah, the company is great. That's kind of how it got started, is with that thermal cabling at a Packers game. And from then on, it took off, and he started making these in his garage. And now we're in 2023, and we're on a huge scale.
Great. Thanks, Ben. So we're just going to go through probably about an hour or so. We're going to cook on a bunch of different pieces of equipment, from our multi-cook ovens. We have combi ovens. We have our cook and hold, our holding cabinets. And I'll show you a couple of other pieces that we're not using today for cooking, but just so you can get a feel for it. We try to use that Halo Heat through the majority of our products, just because it is such an efficient way to transfer energy without pulling all that moisture out of the product. So if you'll bring this cart over here. So right now we have our combi. We're going to come back to that in a little bit, but the combi, you can actually see in there we're doing a rotisserie chicken that we just threw in. So chef probed the chicken. We've got that set to come up to a specific temperature based off of the probe. and then you could go to a hold mode in the combi, but we're going to pull that out. We're going to cook some other items, so we're going to throw it into our holding cabinet and revisit it at the end of the at the presentation. Amy, sorry to interrupt. Is today the gentleman or gentleman and lady from Vegas? Do you know? Yeah. Okay. So I think there was some focus you were looking for on the multi-cook. So I can always go over to the multi-cook first, walk you through that. We can have some items coming out. Chef, are you ready for us to jump into the multi-cook?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we can throw an item in. I can come over and talk about some other items. We can come back. Cool. All right, because we're on a mobile cart, so we can roll back and forth easily. So we'll go over there first. Maybe throw in some chicken.
Sure.
All right. Cool.
Hi, I'm Chef Stacy. Nice to meet you.
Perfect. All right. So we'll come over here, Ben. So we're kind of fast forwarding. Normally we work to the multi cooks last, but they are going to be the newest addition to Alto Shaam. So what we did, nobody else has this technology, is we have multiple decks. We can do different temperatures. So this deck is at 450, this is at 500. We could have the bottom deck at 325 baking cookies and be roasting a product up top at 525 if we wanted to. They're completely separate. There's not going to be any contamination of any kind with flavor. And the heat is individual heating elements, and we have fans that are blowing the air at the top and the bottom, and it pulls all that heat to the back, runs it through a catalyst, which is going to take care of all the smoke, grease, odor. So this is a truly ventless piece of equipment. We can do this in a double deck, triple deck, or a 4-deck unit. And we do have wide models as well. So if you're doing up to a 16-inch pizza, we can do that as well. So right now we have that top at 500, and I actually moved it around on you. Sorry, Chef. So if we come down, it should be under EMC raw chicken breast.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So we throw in some chicken. That one actually has a 2-stage cook on it, and we did kind of change up our chicken profile. So fingers crossed this comes out. We're doing kind of a recipe on the fly. But what we did is we did 4 minutes for the first step at 450 degrees, and we can change the airspeed. So more air is going to be more doneness, more color to it. So we have 80% for the first portion of it, and then the last 2 minutes we're at 450, and we're ramping up the air to 100 to get a nice crisp on it. So that's going to be a 6-minute cook. Right now we have this little progress bar that's moving across, and then this cavity is at 450. Sorry, this cavity is at 500. So this one, it actually flexes down or up 50 degrees. The lower cavity we have at 450, so that could go up to 500. It could go down to 400. You could always set that even lower, throw in cookies or things like that. Those are chicken nuggets, chicken strips.
Now we're going to take just store-bought Foster Farms chicken tenders, extra crispy, and we're going to cook them frozen. As you know, the chicken was raw. We're going to put these on the bottom.
I don't think that one has a setting in there. So what I'm going to do,
the same as the French fries.
Same as French fries? Okay, cool. So we're going to go in there. We are going to go to fries. You can open up the door in the middle of a cook cycle. Go ahead and give it a close, Chef. So this actually has air that's pulling from the back, cooling the components up here where all the computer electronics are, and it brings the air curtain down. At the same time, that air is trying to pull to the back where the catalyst is to vaporize off the grease and smoke. So we don't really have a lot of air escaping. So you can open this up and close it. You don't need to wait for a cook cycle to end. So if we had other decks, like a 2 and a 3 deck, they would also show up. We could just have all of those right there. And I do want to point out we have our converge model, and we'll show you that in just a minute. What this is this one's our newest. We took all the technology from a vector and we added moisture. So if you're familiar with combi cooking, basically you're adding steam to a convection-like atmosphere. If you're not, I'm going to go through that a bunch once we get to the combi. But by using moisture in a state higher than 212, what you normally use for a steamer, we actually get a crispiness. So we're going to throw in some, I think some buns or some rolls.
No, we're not going to do that first. First, we're going to do the acorn.
Oh, I'm just saying, we're going to use that later. But that is one of the things that really separates this from this, is we have the moisture. It'll do everything that this one will do temperature-wise, but we're adding moisture. So we're adding moisture, keeping the product moist, but we're going to basically replicate. You can do just this level as a combi. You can have the whole thing. We can do a full steamer, convection oven, combi. You can mix it all up.
So I'm going to throw in some sockeye salmon that I pre-seasoned.
So we're going to put that up on the top. This level is at 450.
And then acorn squash with the same seasoning.
That one's going in the middle. That one's at about 400.
Yes.
And so just hit that little, yep. So we have a full menu that I can show you as well. But this is our deluxe controller. So is that in the frame, Ben? This controller can actually be added to our regular Vector. I like this controller for several reasons, but the main one, it's very nice. It's easy, highly visible, user friendly, and you can actually hook this up to the Wi-Fi at your location, and you can monitor everything that's going on. So you can actually see, if we logged into our computer, you can see the temperatures of each deck. You can see what it's cooking and where it is in the cook cycle. So this is great for several reasons. You can always see what's going on with cleaning, if your employees are cleaning it or not. You can see any error codes. You can see all kinds of HACCP data if you're cooking with a probe. So this is a free service that comes with the unit. All you do is you buy the deluxe controller up front. Maybe I don't know, 15% more, somewhere around that. But you never have to pay any subscription fees. You get a login, and you can even share that with our service techs if they need to go in and see what's happening with the oven itself, if there's ever any service needed. But it's completely up to you. You would have to share that login with them. You can share it with anybody in your team. You can see it from anywhere in the country. If you're multi-unit operators, you can give a location a name, and you can call the individual pieces by different names. So if you had maybe two of these, but one was for room service, and then the other one's in the front in the cafe, you can give them those names. You can also push recipes, not only from your own cookbook, but you can pull them from our Alto Shaam cookbook that our chefs have come up with. So no more standing in front of the machine, punching in individual recipes. Say you had 30 locations, you could come out with a limited time offer, select it, choose all your location you want to send it to, and shoot it out. And all it does is it connects up to Wi-Fi like your phone would. You choose the network, you put in the password, and you're good. So really cool technology, and you can have this controller. This is our deluxe controller. We have our simple controller over here on the Vector. So just kind of notice some of those differences. So our chicken breast is coming up to end on the cycle there. So you can see that the deck flashes. What's really neat about these multi-tier ovens is the deck's going to flash. You'll see the lights just for that level going. It's saying you're done. You can pull it out, take a look. Again, this is a trial. So we threw it in there, 6 minutes. It's at 120, 125 degrees. So I'd probably say we could throw them in for
a little more.
A little bit more. So not only can you do programming, you can also do manual cooking if you wanted to. We're just going to hit that button again and maybe watch it, and we'll pull this 2 minutes in, 2.5 minutes.
Okay, but also the thing about this is, even if we're not at the time that you want, these ovens are, meant to whatever temperature you pick. You can do a few different things in that same temperature if you'd like. You just have to play with the time and the air and the temperature. And so
it'll show the recipes if you're able to cook that recipe on that level. If not, it'll try to warm it up to that level. So if we were cooking maybe cookies down here and it was at 325 and then we chose a chicken, it'll start to bump up the temperature on it. But the beauty of these is having the multiple decks at different temperatures. So you can really utilize this for several different things in a small footprint. You can also stack these units as well. So if you were to do a stack, maybe you did a 3 on the bottom and a 3 on the top, or a 4 on the bottom, a 2 on the top, totally up to you. So right now you can see on our deluxe unit, we have a progress bar that's coming across. This is even doing an action step. So it's saying add broccolini to the salmon pan. I'm not sure if we're doing broccolini today.
No, but I'm gonna actually take another type of adobo, and vinegar and maple syrup. I'm gonna brush both the squash and the salmon. So it'll make it a little sticky because of the sugar that's in there, but it'll give it a nice glaze.
Can you pull that out?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And what's great is none of the air is getting out. It's all staying inside the cavity so that when I shut the door, it does not have to come back up to temperature. Thank you.
No
the fish too, please? Thank you very much.
Alrighty. And right now our lower deck is not cooking anything, but it's just hanging out. We have it set at, I think 325. So if we wanted to throw something in there, bake it, we could. There's gasketing here. There's not going to be any flavor transferred because all those fans are pulling to the back. Really what the gaskets are for is if there was moisture, if we were doing a full steam, it would maybe run down the front. We don't want it to drip down.
Take the chicken out now.
Yeah, there you go. A little slippery.
It's a little slippery.
What if, there you go.
The reason I'm cooking it on this is because I want it to have the grill mark lines. You can do it in a regular half pan, quarter pan, hotel pan. And these were just marinated overnight in lemon and olive oil, garlic, and rosemary.
So our squash is going off. You want me to pull that out, Chef?
Yes, sir.
You can see that we really have a lot of food coming out very quickly, which is nice, high volume cooking.
So I want that to stay a little longer.
A little bit longer?
Do one more step, and I'm going to take out the salmon.
No problem. Sorry?
Let that sit. Thank you. And then I want to show you the chicken. I just took it out. I'm going to cut it in half just so you can see it. See all the moisture. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a ton of moisture here. I could also set it if I wanted to set a two-step where I wanted to take this other part of the chicken and also get grill marks, or I can just have the grill marks on the top, which are which is just the service side of what the client would see. But as you can see, that it's beautiful chicken. Look at that. So
very nice, juicy, and this is fully approved for cooking raw proteins. So we have EPA 202 certification because of the ventless catalyst in there. Just like a car has a catalytic converter, it burns off any unused gas. This does the same, but with grease and smoke. So that is going to be, if we just hit the little salmon button up top.
thank you.
Want me to pull the squash, or?
No, I'm gonna let it in for another second. And sadly, you guys aren't here because you would get to taste everything, but at least you get to see it.
So what you can do is there's going to be a little trial and error, but once you get it dialed in perfectly, you can save it. You can give it a name. You can even do multiple stages. So if you wanted to, like on the chicken, we had started at 80 and we ramped up to 100. You can go up to 3 stages. You can give it a name. You can categorize it like breakfast, lunch, limited time offers, put it in the category, and then it's always going to be the same. Just You can repeat it, whether I cook it, whether chef cooks it, always going to come out same consistent results.
So now I'm going to throw the French fries in on the bottom. So again, frozen French fries. These are the fast food type.
So on the bottom, there's the fries button right there. Oh, changed it. There we go. So just hit fries. There we go.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Squash just coming along. So with this unit, it's going to be self-cleaning. We have tablets. We just throw them in there. You tell it how heavy it worked. If it was cooking chicken all day, maybe a couple extra tablets on a heavier cycle. If you're doing a lot of vegetables and things where it's not going to get too greasy, you can just do a lighter cycle. And we do that right through our controller, just like a combi oven would. Flatbread going in the Vector, chef? Or
I believe we have it.
I think we have it saved in here, right? So we're going to go on here. We're going to go.
So this is a raw dough that I made and shaped out into a flatbread, and I pre-cooked it in this oven, in the same oven of the Vector, so you can see it's beautiful, but it doesn't have the marks yet because I'm going to finish cooking it right now. And this is a pesto with goat cheese, honeyed goat cheese, figs, and prosciutto. And then I'm going to top it with arugula and a truffle glaze.
So we're ready in the top. Just throw it in there and
Thank you.
got flatbread going. On average, this will cook items about recipes go, and then the airspeed is going to be how crispy you want it. If you want it to be more crispy, you raise the airspeed up. All right. So the flatbread's going. Our squash finishing up here.
Finishing.
So while we're over here waiting for these items to come out, other items we have over there is a cook and hold, which is like what Ben mentioned on our holding cabinet. We took that thermostat, bumped it up to 325. So it lets us cook products like tri-tip, corned beef, even stocks where you're not wanting to have somebody standing there and just stirring constantly to keep it from burning on top of an open burner range. So that will just cook perfectly with that radiating heat, not going to dry the product out, and we can cook with a probe. So you can always probe a big piece of tri-tip. You could throw it in there, say, I want it to cook to 100 degrees on the probe, and I'm going to have the cavity cooking at 325. And so what'll happen is once it hits that temperature on the probe, there's going to be some carryover cooking as your cavity's coming down to meet your final temp for a hold. And then you can just say hold at 130 degrees, 135 degrees indefinitely. You can do this at the end of the day. You come in, you have a piece of meat that's been cooking since 3 o'clock the previous day. Now you get a really nice slow cook. Cooking at lower temperatures for longer kills all the bacteria, so we're still safe, but it releases all those enzymes that help to break down the muscle tissue. And that's where you get those like fall off the bone ribs. You're gonna get the really nice textures. We're doing all kinds of things like pork butt, brisket, things like that. We do have a smoker option as well. I don't think we're smoking anything today, but
we are not smoking anything today.
But I'll show you the box, and it's basically a heating element. You slide this box over the heating element, you have some wood chips in there, and it just vaporizes the aroma, releases it. You get a really nice smoke on the product. So you can actually have a smoker in a very small footprint.
So this is the dish, the salmon with the squash that we cooked at the same time. There's lemon and pomegranate seeds. So.
And there's truly no flavor transfer. So you're not going to have like squash that has a salmon aroma or odor or anything like that. We've done croissants before while we were doing salmon. 2 different chambers, 2 different temperatures, but no flavor transfer at all.
Okay, we're just about to take out that pizza.
Probably could even go a little shorter on this guy.
Thank you. Oh, wow,
came
that's
out great.
beautiful. So I want you to see the underside of that. Look at that beautiful. Can you see it?
You can probably raise it up with the turner there.
Beautiful. So when I hold it, it's completely crispy. You know, and you can be as simple as you want with something like this and French fries, or you can be gourmet. So it's good for a number of, you know, easy finish, quick serving, even in the back of the house of a nice restaurant.
So yeah, and you can put it into cafes. You can put it into to room service. So that way, maybe limited menu into the night. You're going to have somebody that can have no culinary experience, and as long as chef programs in the recipes, I can go in, hit the button, and it's going to come out the same every time.
Every time.
It smells great. So right now we got the fries going, and that's the last item over here, right, Chef?
Yes, sir.
And then we'll jump back over to the other
You want
side.
to put some cookies in?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Our cookies, we might have to throw the cookies in a little bit though, because these cavities are up a little
Got it.
high.
Okay, we'll do that after.
Yeah.
Let me cut this.
So while
pizza.
she's cooking that, just a little bit more on the cook and hold. You can get, if you're doing any kind of large meats, want to go take a look real quick? We'll come back over to this side, Chef. So we did a tri-tip in here. And what's nice about this is you can have from ends to ends. Normally, when you cook something like a big piece of tri-tip, it's going to overcook the outsides that tend to taper down a little bit. The middle is going to be the biggest point, most mass, and so that's where you kind of get that bullseye effect. If we were to cut a piece right down the middle, you're going to have more of like a rare center, and it'll slowly work its way outside to medium rare, and then medium and well. With this, because we set the temperature to what we want it to cook to on the probe, it's not going to carry over and overcook. And so with that, we can have perfect consistency all the way through, from the small end piece all the way to the thickest point. We also have HACCP, so it's recording all those temperatures. So it'll say if there was a power outage, or if we only cooked it to 110 degrees, and all of that good information. So if anybody ever comes to your restaurant and says that they got sick, you can pull all that information just through USB, or if you have the deluxe controller, you can go back and pull that right off of your website link, and you can say, nope, my items have all cooked over 135, and show them written proof.
I just wanted to show the pizza when it comes out. It completely stands up. Beautiful.
Nice.
So, see that?
Perfect. Thank you, Chef.
When we go back over the multi-cook ovens,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to talk about why the temperature is set to our cookies and why they're
Sure. Absolutely. So yeah, we'll jump over there in just a minute. Just wanted to kind of go over, so on the cook and hold, we do make these smaller sizes. We also make larger sizes. This one is an example. This is we have a smoker in here, but this is a little bit larger size. You can see you can fit a lot more meat in there. We can do this in a taller unit like this, or we can go a full size with 2 compartments. So just something to think about. You can always use them as a holding cabinet. So if you're cooking a bunch of product off, you throw them in and hold at the temperature you want it to maintain at. But just a really neat piece, very versatile. You can change it around, do a lot with it. And you can tell that this is our deluxe controller. It looks just like how our combi looks. It looks just like how our converge looks. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to unify the controls. So if you have a couple of these different pieces, your operators can come in and they're very familiar with one, so they're familiar with all of them. So really cool situation. One other thing I'll point out, regardless of which oven we're using, if we're using a probe, the probe is a plug-in style probe, and you can plug this into the cook and hold, you can plug this into the combi, we can plug this into our converge, we can plug it into our blast chiller. a lot of times with our competitors, this is hardwired into the wall. And if anybody cuts this, if they pull it out, over time, if they're pulling, they forget to pull it out of the food. If this happens to separate out of the wall, now you have a service call and you're down with your probe cooking. Can't use it. All of your recipes go out the window. You're cooking by time and eyeballing it, and you have no consistency. With ours, you can just keep one of these in the chef's or the manager's office in a drawer. You can take it, plug it in to any piece, and even if maybe you're not using your blast chiller at the time, but your combi needs a probe, you can kind of borrow that one and plug it in. So it's very helpful, saves you a service call. Just a really smart way. I'm not sure why everybody hasn't gone to this method, but just wanted to point that out.
So I just wanted to show you this. After Nick went over to this side, I took a flatbread that I got from Trader Joe's and put a pizza sauce on it with a quattro formaggio, 4 different cheeses, and pepperoni. And as you see, it's cooked it perfectly with the same exact setting as the other flatbread that I had cooked from a raw steak first, pre-cooked, par-baked. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Should we go ahead back over to that side? We'll check out the temperatures. Oh, and check out the fries and the chicken too. So these French fries, they were air baked, so obviously you're going to be healthier. You don't have the oil to deal with. You don't have the cost of oil, which is nice. But just a healthier fry that still has a nice golden color. And we did those right out of the vector. So I just wanted to point that out. So to get back to Jeff's question, because of what we were cooking, we had set these. It's something that you can completely set. I can always change the settings. Like if I didn't want this one to be 450, I could set the temperature to 350. Hit the little check mark button, and it'll start to cool off and drop down to that. But the items that we are cooking, the flatbreads, the fries, the chicken nuggets, and the chicken, those were up at those higher temperatures. So that's why we didn't have a level that was set, because we can flex up 50 degrees and down 50 degrees. But since we're at 450 and I believe our cookies are at 350, that's 100 degrees. So we wouldn't be able to drop down. So that's the only reason why. In your kitchen, you could have one that's always 325 and you always bake cookies or pastries down there, and that never changes. We just happen to be changing our temperatures for this particular demo. Hope that answered your question, Jeff. Cool. Alrighty. Maybe I'll just show one more thing on the controller here, just so they can see. Okay, cool. So on these different decks that we have, I just wanted to show you in our recipe book, we have all these different items, and you can always load things on. So like from the Alto Shaam cookbook, I could search for pizza, and it might pop up 4 different things like flatbread, frozen tombstone style pizza, that sort of thing. And I can push the recipes over here. You can put it into a category. Like for example, if you go into breakfast, you can see I have eggs, quesadillas, scrambled eggs, English muffin, toast dry. I've got different vegetables in the vegetable category. You can give them pictures. And then if we wanted to change these settings, you can just hit the little pencil and paper. We can change the name. We can change the description here. So we could say we're cooking 4 quesadillas on a sheet pan, half size. We can do different stages. So if we wanted to do combi, if we want to do convection, steam, and then we can change the percentage of moisture. We could change the fan speed. And if we're cooking with a probe, we can click the probe and tell it what we want to cook up to. Give it your picture, put it in your category, save it, and then it's locked in there. So you always have that saved in. But I just think this is such an easier to use controller on the Deluxe than the Simple. Simple is good, but if you get too many items in there, you might want to start to look at doing a Deluxe, plus all the benefits of shuffling. No.
Can you set the oven for the cookies, please?
Yes, it's coming down right now.
Okay, thank you.
I'll open up the door, speed up the process a little bit.
Okay. So I just took out the Brussels sprouts and potatoes that I was cooking under the chicken. And so I had olive oil on it, salt and pepper. And then it also has all of the good, yummy, gooey grease from the chicken. I'm gonna take it and put it in our cooking hold now, so it'll hold until our chicken is done. I mean our holding cabinet.
Holding cabinet. There we go.
You want me to take this out?
Yeah. Let's pull that.
Okay.
So Chef's gonna pull out our tri-tip that we have in our. We have it under a corned beef setting, but it is tri-tip. Very similar settings.
It's a small piece that I've taken out because I've taken the other piece earlier today and put it in the chill cabinet so it could chill it down. I'll show you what that looks like as well.
Cool. All right, so she's gonna take that, cut it up. Over here, right when we started, Chef threw in that chicken, if you remember. So it's showing right now we're at 120 degrees on the probe. We've got that set to about 165. So it'll come up to 165, and then it's going to beep at us, let us know with all kinds of lights and sounds. This is going to flash, so very highly visible. And then we'll pull that out, and we can always throw that into our holding cabinet as well. One thing that I wanted to show, if you can bend the angle down. Ben was talking about cooking different items and putting them in here. So if you had fried chicken, maybe you would want to open up some of these vents a little bit to let out some of that moisture. We don't want to take a nice crispy texture on the outside and then seal all these up, trap it with the moisture inside and have it get soggy. So we can always open these up a little bit. If we don't have something with a crispy texture that we're going for, we could always leave them more a closed state. But we have them across the top and across the bottom. So very customizable. You just kind of set what works for you. Set it inside. We also have this drip pan. So this will catch any kind of moisture or anything like that. You can drain it off. So just a really easy cavity. These have been around, like Ben mentioned, since the 60s. Gone through several different variations, but a really easy controller. You set it to your temperature. Just kind of forget about it. Okay. So there shouldn't be transfer because each cavity has its own fan. It's got its own heater. With that being said, if you've got like any kind of liquid or anything like that, and as you're putting it in or taking it out, kind of, something transfers somehow, I don't think there's going to be a way to keep that. I haven't tested it myself with like glutens and things like that, but in theory, it's completely separate. Every single level is independent from one another. So maybe if you're pulling something out and that air curtain kind of blows a little bit down, it could transfer something like a gluten. Because if you're doing gluten, you technically even need to have it true gluten-free, would be a whole separate kitchen, separate ventilation, doors, all that good stuff. Does that help out? Okay. So that leaves us with the combi oven. And a combi oven, I'm just going to kind of go through just in case somebody's not familiar. Combis were created back in the late 70s over in Europe because if you've been to Europe, they tend to repurpose. Everything's very old, hundreds of years. They take a castle and they make a restaurant out of something that could have been like a guard shack in 1600. And so this guard shack has this very tiny kitchen the size of a closet, and they can't fill it up with all this equipment because to put a charbroiler and a flat top and a fryer and a convection oven, it's going to take up too much space. So they came up with the idea of, what if I take a convection oven, add moisture to it? We can do all different kinds of things. We can do proofing, we can roast, we can bake, we can steam, we can separate out the modes. So in the steam, you're just steam. In the more bake side, you're just convection. But when we combine the two together with the steam and the convection, that's where we get combi or combination cooking. We have the smoker that I was talking about. Here's two examples. So this is the example for our little smoker right there. A tiny heating element just slides in over the back. It's going to heat up those chips that you just put in some soaked wood chips, vaporizes off, and gives you a nice smoke. This is going to be the unit for the combi. So obviously combi's larger. We have a larger capacity for chips. And then this just slides in over the back and hangs down at the bottom. We're not losing any space. We're not taking up any shelf room or anything like that. You do have to order this when you order your piece of equipment though, because we make it with that heating element. We can't add it in the field. But we can do all different kinds of things and we can have it go from one process to the next. So if we put in some rolls, we wanted them to proof inside of here instead of using a big cabinet with a pan of water and setting it to 100 degrees, letting it proof for a while. We can throw this in here. We can set this to 100 degrees. We can tell it how much moisture we want, usually 90% for proofing. It'll proof for X amount of minutes. And then you can have it roll right into a bake. So it'll ramp up the temperature, say 325. We can set the airspeed and go. So we can take unproofed doughs, put them in here, and have it come out as a perfectly baked croissant, for example. Normally need 2 pieces. We've done it in 1. We can take it and we can replicate everything we were doing in the cook and hold. We can probe a big piece of tri-tip. We can throw it in there. We can tell it, I want to cook up to this temperature, and then hold. It's going to hold indefinitely, and then we can pull that piece out. And then whenever we're trying to steam, maybe we can steam those buns in here, Chef.
I'm sorry?
Maybe we can steam the buns in here. I'll do like a quick combi.
Okay, I wanted to show.
Oh, sorry.
So this came out of the blast chiller, and as you can see, I pulled it out medium rare, and it's completely chilled. And now I can take it and put it in my slicer and slice it cold sandwiches if I want, or I can take it right out of the cook and hold whenever I'm ready. I can fill up that whole thing with tri-tip and come in and then slice it, put barbecue sauce on it, and I'm going to make sandwiches. Now I'm going to put barbecue sauce on it. So yeah, we'll do
just
that.
Trying to show the blast chiller. Blast chillers I'll talk about at the very end. If you're not familiar, very helpful to bring products down quickly out of the danger zone so we don't have any bacteria growing in your walk-in or anything like that on the food product.
I'm going to take this and put this in the Vector right now. These are just refrigerated cookies. We also do frozen puffs. You can make your own homemade cookies. But for easiness, we're just doing this refrigerated right now.
And I set both the decks to that 325, so either one should go. So anyways, you can do so many different things with this, but what's great is you can steam, for example, 3-4 different temperatures. You can low temp steam, so you can poach. You can bring it up to 130. You can sous vide, which is basically steaming in a vacuum sealed bag. The idea is you drive all kinds of temperature evenly around the product, but there's never really any way to keep track of that, and it's usually done over a long period of time, so health inspectors don't like sous vide. With this, we can actually record it because we have our probe, we have our HACCP recording. You can probe a bag, that can be your control bag, and you can fill up this whole cavity, and moisture is going to be in the cavity at a perfect percentage to a single digit. So we could set this at 36% if we wanted to, and it would replicate that in here. And then you're going to be able to do 170 degree. You can kind of do like a blanch on a steam. You can do 212 for your normal steamer. We can go 250 for more frozen products, hard shell seafood. That's just on the steaming side. Again, we can have a full cookbook in here, so chef can set it up. I can come in without knowing what I'm doing and just hit the button. So really cool technology there. And whenever we steam above 212, all kinds of interesting things happen. You would think if I wanted to steam some buns, I'd throw them in there. They come out really soggy. But if we did it at maybe 350, 400 degrees, 100% steam, it will actually completely change the way the steam works. Steam will drive the heat into the product, but it will also crisp up the product. So we will get a nice toast off of what we're trying to cook. This will go well above 500 degrees, so we can cook all kinds of things in there as well. And we make them in ventless systems with the hood over the top. It has the grease filters. It has our collection for smoke, odors, has HEPA filters. So that's a really neat piece as well. You want to show something, Chef?
Yeah, these are the sandwiches that have to be toasted. The meat's already warm.
Okay, we can't throw them in here though. We have the chicken. I just thought about it.
Oh, okay.
But we can throw them into the Vector.
Okay, let's do that.
Or even at the Converge. The middle deck is probably perfect, 400 degrees. It's up to you.
Let's do the Converge.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. So if we do, go to the chef, we'll hit this one. And then we'll tell it to do maybe 3 minutes. And we'll drop that down. Good. All right, yeah. Right in the middle there. Cool. All right. So yeah, we do all different sizes in this. We can even do it a little countertop that's smaller than that Vector with a ventless hood on the top. So just something to keep in mind. If you need a combi, we can stack these units. We can even put Vectors underneath the combi, so you have all the benefits of the Vector with the high volume cooking of the combi on top. Because we could load, we're doing one chicken right now, we could load this whole thing up. Like if you go to a Kroger, they use Alto Shaam as their spec, they will do 6 chickens on top, another 6 chickens in front of that. On the bottom, 6 chickens, another 6 chickens in front of that. So 24 chickens. They cook in about an hour, and they have a double stack unit. So they're doing 48 chickens. You probe one, they're all the same size. So when one finishes out, they're all done. And you have your HACCP recording for that. So really cool technology on these guys. Something that sets us apart as well, other than the probes and having that ventless system on here, is we have cool touch on the side. So usually a combi is going to say you need to have about 12 to 18 inches off the side. On ours, the way we move our air through the control panel, we don't need any clearance. And so you could put a fryer or a 6-burner range or a griddle right next to the combi, and you don't lose all that precious space on your cook line. So just another thing to think about on the combi itself. That's pretty much all I have over here.
We are just waiting on the sandwiches.
Yes, sandwiches and cookies, and then we can talk about the blast chiller real quick, and then we'll be done.
Okay, so these were minute.
So that's like yeah, minute 50.
So this is the tri-tip I took out of the cooking hold. I put barbecue sauce on it, heated it back on the rolls. You can see the rolls are toasted. And then
and while Chef's preparing that, I'm just going to talk about the blast chiller real quick. So this is our baby blast chiller. We do make this is a 3-pan. We have 3 pans. We make a 5-pan. We make a 10-pan. We make a 20-pan with the roll-in. So something that's unique to Alto Shaam is we have a holding cabinet that will accept a roll-in rack. We have a blast chiller that will accept a rolling rack. We have a combi oven that will accept a rolling rack. So we're the only manufacturer that makes all these different products. You can start with a rolling rack in your walk-in. You can roll that out, go into your combi. You can cook. You can pull it out, go into your holding cabinet until it's ready for service. And then afterwards, you can pull it and roll it right into the blast chiller. So you can go from the walk-in all the way to blast chilling it, bring it back down to safe temperatures to maybe use it later for banqueting, replating, that sort of thing.
And then so when I took it out, I took those like French's crispy onions and I put them on top. So you have and look how beautiful, the tri-tip with the melted cheddar and the crunchy onions. Thank you.
Cool. This also utilizes the probe. So we plug the probe in, we probe our food product, and we can do just basic settings on here. Like if we wanted to do just a chill down to 32 degrees or 35 degrees, whatever you set it at. The only way that you normally bring food down is people leave it out. It's usually what happens at home. And then what you're doing is you've cooked it to 140, for example, whatever you're cooking, 150. Then it's just sitting out there, and you have to bring it down to a safe temperature below 40 within a certain amount of time, or bacteria, whether it's airborne, wherever it's coming from, can start to grow, and then you can have people getting all kinds of illnesses. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Being in the restaurant industry, you know, we want to bring down the temperatures as quickly as possible. And so you can, a lot of times people just throw it in their refrigeration, which is bad because now you're introducing heat, making your refrigeration work harder. There's moisture coming off of it. So now that's going into your refrigeration system. It could ice up your evaporator coils. It could cause all kinds of new problems. And it makes the system work harder, and it could fail in your refrigerator. Our blast chillers have a way of removing the moisture. It's usually a little bit higher compressor, so it's going to be working harder, but it can handle it. And it's going to be much more efficient than the alternative being like an ice wand. You know, you're doing ice wand in like a soup or something like that. So just a very user-friendly, smart piece to have in a kitchen, especially if you're maybe prepping something. A lot of times, like for banquets, people will cook items pretty much ready to go, and they will have them all staged on a rack, and they need to be able to bring that down to a safe temperature so they don't throw it into the oven, try to bring it up to temperature, put it out, and get everybody sick at the banquet. So you want to make sure you pulled it down, safe temperatures in the proper amount of time. Again, HACCP recording, kind of noticing a trend. All of our pieces that have the probe have a little USB slot on the side. You can save all that information. One thing that I can do, Ben, is I can pop up Chef Link on my computer. We can roll over there and take a look at it real quick. And then these cookies are almost done, about 5 minutes left. Then we'll let you guys go. Yeah, I can bring it over here. Be right back. Navigate the counter. All right. So this is just a link that I have saved on my computer, and I have the username and password logged in. And so what we have, I hope you can see it. I'm going to turn the brightness up as much as it'll go. You see it on there? Okay. So we have two locations because we have a Northern California office up here in Emeraldale, and we have our location. So you can see there's two locations. We have 7 connected units with alerts. If we had one where maybe the gas pressure dropped off or something like that, it would give us a little alert and say, hey, you've got an error code. So that's really neat. I'm going to go to our kitchen here. And so it shows we have 3 connected units because our deluxe units that we have are our cook and hold, our combi, and our converge. And so I have a picture here. If I wanted to give them a name, I could, but I just kept the standard model numbers. So I'm gonna look at our combi oven right now because that actually has the chicken cooking in it. It has all kinds of information here. We've got firmware info. We've got operating mode. It says cooking, door status, closed. And then right here, chamber 1, you see that, Ben? Hopefully. So whole roasted chicken. I can always bring this up a little bit. Pop that off. So we've got whole roasted chicken, stage 2, in convection cooking mode. 402 degrees is what the oven itself is. And if I wanted to go in to, say, the Alto Shaam Global Library, this is what I was talking about as far as all the settings that Alto Shaam has saved in here. So we have our vectors, we have our converge, our cook and hold, our Prodigy Pro, which is our combi oven. If I wanted to look at recipes in the converge, I could separate it out just by converge. And then you can go through here. You see we have K-12 grilled sandwiches, New York strip steak, and the beef proteins. They're always adding things in here. So you can see there's little new icons. Almond bear claws, pre-proof, frozen. We've got our settings in there. So you can just click on these. We can see whatever they put in here. So this is like a product code information. It's got some settings. And then I can always download this to my cookbook. So if I went over here, I didn't download it, but if I went over to my cookbook, you can see everything that we have here. So like our Converge, I can go through, I can delete some of these things. If I decided, you know what, we're not doing English muffins anymore, I could just go through, say delete, start choosing them, delete them out. And then if I loaded in that bear claw recipe, it would now be in my library. I could click on it and push it to the Converge, and then it would be loaded on there. We can also see all kinds of reports like total completed cooks, hour cycles, alerts, unit status. We can see control board temperatures, missed cleans, oven cleaning. You can even track how many cooks have been done for, say, a cheese pizza compared to a deluxe pizza. And if you look at it and you say, hey, we've only cooked like 4 cheese pizzas ever, but we prep 5 cheese pizzas a day, why are we doing that? You can go through and kind of use that to know how to set up what you're prepping for and what to order. So this is all a free system. You just have the initial purchase of the deluxe controller, and then you'll get your login, and then you can have access to all of this with your individual pieces. Whenever you buy a new piece, you plug in the serial number, and it will pop in here under your kitchen. So that's a really cool technology. But yeah, that's it for Chef Link. Just wanted to give you a quick demonstration of that. This is, if you had, say, 10 locations, you could see all of your locations. You could see everything that's going on with all of your units. So I think that's very helpful for multi-unit operators. Good. Cool. So now we have our cookies coming out. 18 seconds. As far as cleaning our vector, I talked about cleaning the Converge. The vector, we have that catalyst in there. We don't have the moisture, though, to carry the chemicals through the cavity like we do on the Converge. So what you would do is you have a cleaning chemical specifically made to work with that catalyst. And you're just going to spray it onto a towel. You wipe it on the inside. And then you take a damp towel, you wipe it out. And that's all you have to do for the cleaning. There's our cookies there. We did 2 different kinds of cookies. We had white chocolate macadamia, and then we had some chocolate chip cookies. And then it looks like our chicken also came out over on the other side. Kind of lift this up so you can see a little closer. So we did rotisserie chicken, and we don't have a rotisserie in here. So we have this accessory for our combi oven. You can slide 6 chickens on here. We had somebody do duck recently, which was very interesting. Came out great. Chef's just gonna
So you can
pop
see
that up.
all the way around. Just a little oil with herbs de Provence and salt. And then I'm going to take out the vegetables from the holding cabinet.
So those were holding for, what, about an hour?
Yes.
Holding cabinet's a great way to cook in high volumes with a small amount of appliances. So you can just keep cooking, throwing product in the holding cabinet, kind of building up your inventory of your cooked food that's ready to go. So instead of having to have 6 ovens, you can have 1 or 2 ovens, and you can just cook all your food out and just kind of hold it in there.
Really good.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if you guys have any questions. If you do, feel free to ask. Be happy to answer. I hope that this was informative. You kind of learned a little bit more about, I know you were looking for just the multi-cooks, but you kind of picked up some more knowledge on some other stuff too, perhaps. Thank you again for joining us. And you can You can send out your questions if you have any. We'll be happy to get back to you.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.